Hello, everyone. Today or tonight, we will be talking about the soul and explaining the nature of the soul. We will address the twin soul, the soulmates, and the I forgot to start the podcast. I'm sorry. I don't do this often enough, right? And here I go. So again, tonight we're talking about the soul. It's important to understand what the soul is in order to then transition to what is a soulmate, what is a twin soul, and what is the twin flame soul. It's a progression, yes? So what is the soul made of? They have no idea what really a soul looks like. The soul is made simply of pure frequency. It's made of sounds, music, color, vibration, complexity of being. It's your conscience. Yes. The soul were created at the beginning of time. So we'll debunk your myth right now while we're starting off. The difference between an old soul and a new soul. It's the level of experience a soul has. It's not time-wise any older because they were all created at the same time at the very beginning of time. Some of these creations were given certain jobs. So, for example, you have angels. Well, in the angels bracket or category, you have subcategories of and all of these other. In the same fashion, they were given rules to abide by and rules to play by and roles, very specific roles. And we were given free will, which technically for some, it determines that we are absolutely, completely free to do whatever we want, which technically it's true. However, we have two things guiding us into this world of souls. It's the 12 laws of the universe and the 12 laws of karma. With those things, we're supposed to receive the proper guidance for our soul to evolve and to grow and learn. Our soul's mandate is actually just like the angel. Well, we know that in the general fashion, angels are there to look after us, take care of us, guide us, clear things for us as long as we ask. Earthbound souls are here to learn, evolve, and return as teachers. So if you were to give us a category, we're actually teachers category. We're here to teach the rest of the universe. In order to do that, we have to return to what is called our divinity. Therefore, being able to know what it is to create consciously, which a lot of humans are creating every day, but they're creating chaos, and I'm not sure they're very conscious about what they're actually creating. And second, according to divine laws, which means no interference. It means nothing for your own profit. It should, everything that you're creating should be for the highest good of the community or the group or the planet. A living being, not just humans. We are not superior to plants or animals. We're not. We're supposed to share this planet equally. However, as I go through my talk tonight, you will see where this sense of superiority or superior race came from. And you will understand where we sorely deviated from the original plan. Which is why at this point in time, it's so hard for us to actually return. Because for some of us, it feels like we might be walking backwards. Right? We've established our knowledge, our superiority, our control over nature, or this and that, and we weren't actually to do any of those things. So now we have to let go of all those things and return back to a nature-nurture relationship with everything. So, at the very beginning, when all souls were united, they're united outside of time and space, right? So there is no separation between me and you sitting there, or you wherever you are in the world. There was no separation. And we were all in the presence of the Great Divine. And the Great Divine will be explained in the Trinity talk for those of you who are interested in that. So I'm not going to go into that now. So therefore, we're all touching. And we take joy in this touching. We take joy in being the ocean. Think about it. Basically, what we've done is we were the ocean. We were one. And then we decided to come to Earth and enter physical bodies to experience and grow. However, then in our magnificent intelligence, we thought that if maybe perhaps we were denser, we would learn more. This has been a very experimental method from the start. So you think that by isolating yourself, you will learn more, or you will learn something different than what you've been working on. These things that we've been working on has been what is called the Adamic race. And it was created over millions of years ago. And for those of you who doubt this out there, the reason why there's no trace of it is just imagine what happened to Pompeii. Unless you dig far enough to find the proof, and you know where to dig, and you dig far enough, you may find proof of these other civilizations. Now, going this far back, we're going back to things like Atlantis and Lemuria, which have sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Well, first of all, there was a major cataclysm. So how much of these buildings or these services have survived, I don't know. But we can't find anything at those depths. But if Pompeii, you had to dig 30 feet to find it, just imagine how far down the ocean floor you have to dig to find something that's 25,000 years ago, right? But it's not because we don't have the proof of its existence that we can deny it completely. So we took denser forms. Our big body was almost gaseous at first, wispy. And then we became more and more solid because we thought, ooh, this is the sensation cold. This is the sensation hot. And in the beginning, it's not that cold was good or bad. Because, just read your Facebook page on a hot day and everybody's complaining about the heat. But then read your page in a cold day in winter and they'll say, oh, it's awful, it's so cold. Right? It's circumstantial. Nothing is really good or bad. It's just viewed within our experience. And that's why we give it weight. Because we're not observing, oh, it's cold. We're saying, it's cold and I don't like it. Yeah? So the Lemurian race had not yet changed their soul and their physical body, so they matched. Which means they were androgynous, holding both male and female parts in their soul and their physical appearance. Interestingly enough, the written language was written about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. And if we want to push further, I think that if we include the hieroglyphs from Egypt, we can include the caveman's drawings. They were a form of communication left behind by the previous groups or the year before or a previous generation. But why wasn't there any written language before that? It's because they didn't even really truly use language. And why is the early language looks more like pictures than words? It's because that's how they communicated, telepathically, from one soul to the next. They were still linked. And so they were able to convey these messages. We can relate to that through our emails or our Twitter or our Facebook or just our texting. Even though we're not in the presence of, we can still share images and we can still share comments or send message to one another. Yes? And so, therefore, they did this on an unspoken way. But as it got denser, And the body, it became more and more difficult to retrieve the transmission. And that's where the first spoken language evolved. Yeah. And so at the beginning, they were of one single mind. So they started getting denser, but their mind was still linked, right? Because you have a physical body, but you have an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body. And out of those bodies, they could still, we weren't dense enough that they could still play with these different links and different energies and shift forward and backward. Because they were all linked, they were all responsible for one another. Which is why one person can be left outdoors, or one person can be left to be hungry. Because they would know that pain and suffering as their own, because they were all linked. Now, think about it. There's some twins experience this. They'll say something just happened because their link, their psychic link is still strong between them. Yeah? You've heard of these things before, yeah? So we need to restore this ability to stay connected, so that when we witness something, we don't just witness it with our eyes, but we witness it with our emotional body and our mental body. And ask yourself, this is happening to you. On a grander scale, this is also happening to me. And we become more responsible for the things that are happening. The greatest command that you may have received on your way out the door from God, as he says, I give you free will, and go and learn. Learn to be a co-creator with me. Learn the rules, but learn and return on your own to me. Return willing to do my work. He created many forms of life. Angels have duties. They don't have free will. They have a job and they obey and they do it 24/7. And they're happy to do it for the glory of God. But they've never had a chance to choose as we did. So do the elementals and the fairies and the gnomes and all these other beings evolving on Earth. They have a mission, they have a goal, they have a duty, and they honor it. They don't question the order because they don't have the free will to question it in the first place. We are the only one in the universe who can do that. And so God said, please go and know thyself. Knowing thyself and knowing that in the end, doing God's will is what's best for us. Now, through this disconnection that we suffered, it is what's known as the fall from Eden. We were all connected, we were all happy, we were all sharing, we were all together, and all of a sudden we're not. So just think of yourself. You're 7, you feel loved, you feel connected, you know you're safe, and all of a sudden you don't feel that anymore because everybody you know is gone. Even though physically they're still there, that connection is cut off. This created a distortion in the soul. It created a disharmony. And this disturbance reverberated on a whole planetary level, meaning that the animals felt it, the plants felt it, the earth herself felt it. We have to restore this balance. So if you're wondering, why am I here? Is you're trying to restore the balance of your soul, this yin and yang portion that's always in motion, balance and even all the time. The trauma of the loss of the spiritual link, not only did we disconnect from God, we disconnected from the soul and disconnected from our own divinity. We don't realize that we are part of the divine. We are not separate. We're not far. We're just disconnected. So your cell phone can sit by the wall and plug, but unless there's a wire connecting it, it'll never charge. That's exactly what's happening to us. God is not in a faraway place. It's right here among us, filling every space between the atoms. But we're disconnected, so we need to reconnect with that. The Dalai Lama said that rather than recognizing the aspect of divineness in each other, we're focused instead on the conflicts and the difference that separate us. This was during a talk that he did in 2016 in Vancouver, BC. So we need to stop looking at what makes us different and start looking at what makes us part of this group, this togetherness, this wholeness. And so the divine lesson that we're here to learn is that we are divine ourselves. And we need to find the link back to us, to find the link back to the very center of the Creator. In the Lemurian times, they were trying to heal this clash of the soul, and they were using musical chords, colors, and also fragrances, flowers, and different aromatic substance in order to be able to realign the electromagnetic frequency of our body. So if you think that this has to be a convoluted and complicated experience and you need a lot of experts, now you just need to ask yourself, how do I feel right now? And again, this goes back to my talk from last week on why meditation is so important. Because you need to calculate and measure your frequency. And you need to be able to know what's your frequency at. Are you in the frequency of joy? Are you in the frequency of anxiety? Are you in the frequency of anger? Because those draw you down further away in the density as opposed to higher up in the light. There's an interesting painting that I posted as a thumbnail. If you guys wonder, I did draw that. Unfortunately, I don't actually know the name of the painter. But it's magnificent because it shows the being in a fetal position in a third dimensional frequency. And as it's raising its vibration, it goes into a fourth and a fifth dimension until the full-blown butterfly is out of the cocoon as a 12th dimensional being. So we need to be able to circulate these energies. We need to be aware of these energies. One of the ways to do that is to work with your chakras. Know where your chakras align. Are they blocked? Are they circulating through all your bodies? And so in Lemurian times, they paid special attention to the actual frequencies and how the energy circulates in your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. One of the ways that you can raise your frequency is to have your heart open. And this might be the scariest thing I say in this talk. Because people are like, I've been hurt. I've been betrayed. I can't have my heart open. Because you live in fear of this happening again. And the problem is, because you're living in fear, you're attracting what you're fearing, and therefore keep repeating the same experience of trauma over and over and over. If you can have faith and open your heart, then with an open heart, you will send love frequency around you, and that's what you will attract. This is where you unconditionally wish the best to everyone you meet, no matter how difficult or how complicated or convoluted they are. Why is that? Because they're your soulmate. So, cheers to our friends from Australia. They know what a mate is. Everybody's a mate. A mate, right? And they're right. Absolutely right. Every single person that you meet, talk, touch, listen, help, or hurt is your soulmate. So if you're looking for your soulmate, you don't have to look very far. Because contrary to what might have been spread out there in ignorance, there's actually no sexual interaction whatsoever between you and soulmate. It's not a sex thing. It's a link thing. It's a connection. Because their job, that they're your parents, your siblings, your friends, they might be your spouse, but even a twin flame will start off as soulmate first, okay? Which is why you should take the time to know who you're going to involve in then becoming possibly your twin flame. Because all of them are soulmates to begin with. They all volunteer in this great play of what the soul came here to do. Yes, I'll jump to the Lemuria time. In Lemuria time, I'll get to it later. In Lemuria time, they decided that perhaps the soul will grow faster and learn more profound lessons if they were evolving with close relationship. And that's where the soulmate thing began. We were forging closer relationship. So your soul established a plan. In this plan, it says, okay, so now we have denser body. It's more difficult to stay connected. So let's make a plan first. What am I going to try to do? And then the idea was to try and remember the plan. But every time you're born, you're so dense, you're forgetting all of it for the most part. And so you're born, and you think that's where the cycle begins. I was born, I lived, and then my physical body died. Well, technically, no. You have a soul. Your soul is still alive, and your soul is choosing at certain periods of the evolution of the planet to incarnate in the physical body. And does not do so impulsively or without preparation. It will actually prepare life lessons they came here to learn. And it would prepare with their soulmate who's going to play what role. In this big play, the person who loves you are the one volunteering to be in your play. Although you may find, examining your life, well, I've not known only friends, I've known bullies, I've known jerks, I've known, other names. Yes, very true. But you ask them to be that way in your life in order for you to grow because you were stagnating. What are those lessons that you're supposed to learn? The lessons you're supposed to learn are integrity, honesty, love, compassion. These are the things you have to learn in order to found your connection to this soul group, separated from the universe. But in order to do so, you must raise your level of consciousness, which is the bummer of it all, because every time you're burned, you're starting back at level 1. I know I don't like playing video games because then I die with and then brings you back to this hard level and you're like, oh, come on. Can you just, start me back to exactly where this battle started? Right? Why do I have to go back again and re-travel and re-fight all the mini monsters to get the big monster at this level I can't beat? But that's so representative of our physical life. We are born and we have to learn to control our physical bodily function, our language, to express ourselves, because we're completely disconnected from absolutely everything. And then our level of consciousness grows as we grow. Our physical awareness changes because we go from a baby to a toddler to a young kid to an adolescent, and then we go through all these changes. Our body grows, body parts appear that we didn't think we had before, or you're in a constant state of change. But so is your emotional and mental body. You just don't see it as much, but they're in a constant evolution. And so as these levels of consciousness continue to progress, the ideal world would be that we would be also thought about these levels, so we are aware, with awareness, grow into them, knowing where we're going and what we're trying to achieve. Now think about it. You get hired for a new job, your boss says, this will be your desk, and you're like, oh great, thank you. This is going to be your computer, fantastic, and that's your phone. And you're like, okay, well, I know how the computer works, I know how the phone works, and that's great. And then he leaves. Wait. So you turn on the computer, required password. Right. And then you have to look around, start talking to people and say, okay, so who can give me a password? Because I can't even access my computer. And now, so you finally get the access to the computer, and then the phone line, which you thought was going to be really simple, you also complicated because it has a bunch of flashing lights, and then the light is flashing. You know you have a message, but you don't know how to get the message. But you know there's a message there. You just don't know how to access it. And then after the end of the day, you've accomplished absolutely nothing, and you still don't know what you're doing there. You're just trying to set yourself up. This is basically the first 20 years of your life. You know your legs are made for walking and running, and you know that your hand can do this and your hand can do that, and that means something, and some other gesture means something else. But you still don't know what you're going to be doing there. You're just trying to get familiar with your settings, trying to make sure that tools you were given actually work and how to use them. You still need to figure out what are you doing. And this may actually require, on the job, up to a week's training, even maybe more. So why do we think, then, when you take this image, that as souls, there's nowhere else for us to train about the soul's job? And we feel lost, and we keep doing what we think we're supposed to be doing until we hit midlife crisis, men and women alike. And we're like, okay, I'm not happy. This cannot be it. And then we finally start asking the question. So what am I here? What am I doing? And how can I actually get there? The answer is simple. You are here to learn your life lessons. But now you've been ignoring your life lessons for the past 40, 45, 50 years. So now you need to actually literally go back in time and re-examine the people that you've met, the people who have thought to you, influenced you one way or the other, and try to see, why does this keep repeating in your life? What's the lesson behind this? And you have to make a really good analysis of your words, actions, and thoughts, in order to eventually, when you pass, hopefully you have a few check marks on what you actually learned. So going back to old soul, new soul, an old soul is one that's been appearing on this earth on a regular basis. And they are wise because they have a lot of check marks. Karma as a way of also balancing things. If you've done something very horrible, you might be forbidden of reincarnating for quite some time. And so some souls may be new, and a lot of them are simply because the trauma of Atlantis being destroyed, build that energy and that frequency high enough to be incarnated on this physical body plane until now. Which is why we're going to address children, special children, in one of the previous talks. Subsequent talks. So now, the soulmate, you have all these people you've been working from time, but a regular. Why? Because now you created karma with these people. So not only are they coming back to help you, but they're also coming back to balance the karma they may have or you may have together created. The soulmate reflects the identical oscillation of frequency. This is taken from Shirley MacLaine Camino as its mate. So the pair of soulmates were created in the beginning of time. They are mates because they have the same frequency. Which is why when you meet someone, that it's a woman, a child, an elderly, you recognize something in them. You're drawn to them. It's because the frequencies are the same. Now, the task is for us to actually recognize without necessarily jumping into a sexual relationship. Because they are mirrors of what we need to learn for ourselves. Think of someone that's really either pushing all your buttons or really pissing you off. Someone that's been bothering you. Someone that you wish you just never met and just wasn't in your circle. It could be a brother, a cousin, or it could be a fellow employee, or it could be a boss, or it doesn't matter who it is. But do you all have a person in mind? Yes, yes, yes. I'll assume you guys do. Now think of the one thing that is the most annoying about them. The one thing. Like I've heard people say, oh, well, when they express themselves, they're quick to anger. Like, okay, there's one. Someone would say it's their inability to listen. You know, it's all about them, and when it's your time to talk, they don't listen. Okay, so what is it about this person that you can't stand? Yeah? Do you have a word? Do you have an actual, one word, one sentence, one thing? right? It's not an endless list of things or anything like that. It's one thing. You have it? Yes. Okay. Now, keep that in a little box for now, and think for yourself. Okay, who's the person you admire the most? What is the person that? No, that's not it. What's the person that you respect, or you what's the word? Not that you honor, but that really commands your thinking. You look at them and you go, wow, I wish I was like that. What was the word for that? Admire? Yeah. So, you're an inspiration or a role model. Okay. Think of someone like that. Think of someone, and that what is it in them that you are trying to emulate, that you would like to be, right? So in this case, I always take my father, because my father was a strong man and a boss, and liked to give orders, and he was always very sure of himself because everybody looked to him for answers. And I think that the most beautiful quality that I saw in him was his actual ability to apologize when he was wrong. Because technically he's the big boss, so he doesn't have to really apologize to anybody about anything. And he was able to say, no, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. And I thought, wow, if that big, strong man, so sure of himself, can admit to the rest of us, actually, you might have been right. It was something that I very much wanted inside me. For some people, it's going to be their capacity to love you, accept you as you are, always feeling love in their presence, right? These people that you are picking as role models are an inspiration. That's the word I was looking for. They're an inspiration for you, yeah? And this can be from your father to a teacher to Maya Angelou or somebody bigger. It doesn't really matter. So do you all have this quality of this person that you're trying to emulate or copy or be like? Yes? Well, now, the beauty of the soulmate is it doesn't even require to be in your presence. If you can connect with them, you're connecting at a frequency soul level, they can be halfway across the world. So you can be soulmate with Mother Teresa. You could be soulmate with someone that's passed away. But you're resonating at the same frequency, and that's what soulmates are for. They're to leave behind little mirrors that you can pick up and look within yourself. And so therefore, look at the two qualities that you've picked out from these two people. And take some time to think about it, because those two qualities, the only reason why you can recognize them and see them is because they are in you. They are part of you. If they were not, you could not identify them because you would not know them. The soulmate's most important job is to help you see what's in your subconscious, what's been buried there. Not for the purpose of hurting you, not for the purpose of diminishing you or controlling you, but for the purpose of making you aware, this is what you should work on next. Or, wow, look what you actually accomplished. Which is why in this example, I pick one really bad and one that you admire, because whatever it is you admire is inside of you as well. But what is it that you don't like is also what you need to work on next. Often using the quality you admire the most in this other person. They're not there for no reason. They're there to help you. You're never given so much to something to work on without having the tools to work on it. And notice I don't use the word weakness, because it's not a weakness. It's only a lesson not learned. And that shouldn't be a weakness. That should simply be your next lesson. You notice how there's now detachment of good and bad, of positive and negative. It's a neutral position where you say, this is what I need to work on myself. I need to be aware of this. And so instead of forgiving the next person over, in their way and tradition, you thank them for allowing you to see what you need to work in yourself next. Now, eventually, through these talks, I think you're going to find why I do certain of these talks is because there are a bunch of chords that eventually create this tapestry. They looked at first disconjunctive and completely separate, but they're not. They're all a part of some bigger picture. But if we look at the big picture, it's intimidating and incomprehensible. So instead, we do these talks and we take a little bit by little bit, examining the root of it, and then creating the links to the other things. So instead of wishing harm to this person, wishing they were dead, or wishing they disappear, or whatever it is, because they're technically making your life miserable, you need to start examining, how am I doing this? Or the other thing, someone will say, well, I'm not a killer and this person killed somebody. Okay. However, then what is it triggering? You need to stand up for yourself. You need to speak up for yourself. It's triggering something in you, requiring a reaction, a learning. So it's not always about retaliation. It's not always about being exactly like this person, but it could denote in you feel weak, and you feel that you might fall prey and victim to these people, and that's why you don't like these people, and that's why you don't want them near you. Instead, if you build yourself and your strength and your confidence, these people won't be intimidating anymore. They won't be an issue anymore. And I can tell you, they will vanish. Not because you exterminated them, but because they no longer serve their purpose. You're no longer this weakling. I was a policewoman for 20 years. And one of the saying we used to have is about abusers is, wow, they really know how to pick them. Well, yes, they do. They know that frequency, ooh, it's attractive to them. No one would have dared come behind me or grab my bum or touch me in a sexual or non-respectful way. And we discussed this amongst friends, and they said, no one would dare. And I was like, well, boy, is that? And when I made them think, and they're like, I don't know, man. That's a do not touch me and respect me kind of energy. I wouldn't mess with this. Right. Now, am I more special than someone else? Absolutely not. I have a different set of experience, but when it comes to confidence, I managed to harness that. Now, how many lifetimes did that take? I don't know. That might have taken several lifetimes to get here. I need to work on something else now, but I've mastered confidence. So my job now is to surround myself with soulmate with whom I can now, instead of being the mirror of taking advantage of them and showing them how weak they are, I'm choosing to be the mirror of the teacher, saying, if you recognize that you need to grow, then you can come and see me and we'll work on this together. Because I've also learned the lesson of not overpowering someone and respecting their will. Does that mean I have nothing to learn? Of course not. But the people who are choosing to work with me are attracted to me for a reason. Because they're beautiful. Because they have something to offer me that's highly valuable to my soul. So everybody listening, everybody coming to me in person, everybody calling me, texting me, are all bringing an awareness to me that, oh, pay attention to this. And, oh, right, thank you for that. Right? Because if you enter into this field of learning, this field of growth, you will see every interaction in a completely different way. Not in an annoying way, not in, that again way. It's like, obviously I've not learned that yet. Gotta keep working on this. Working on it from a conscious awareness of what you're doing. So, the soulmate is there to show you your subconscious, to show you if you're whole, A whole person means they've looked at their wounds, healed their wounds, not just licked them, and don't even show a scar anymore. Are you reacting to what you feel is missing? Oh, I miss having a boyfriend. I miss having security. I miss having. Are you missing something? Are you reacting to judging that parts of you are unlovable? Very interestingly enough, I never had a weight issue until I got married. Looking back, that's when I felt the most judged about my appearance. I had to look a certain way. All of a sudden, it became all about my appearance and not who I was. It was a very weird experience for me because for 6 years, all I can think of was I'm not perfect. I'm not looking the way I should look. And therefore, people are not going to respect me or love me or think anything good of me. Until I eventually said enough. I am me, and me is better than anything else. It doesn't have to be attached to a body part or a certain size or a certain look. That freedom came with a divorce because I was free. I didn't need that teaching anymore. And essentially, my body started shifting and morphing back to what it should be looking like if I was an healthy and strong individual. Literally went from being sick to being healthy, to being overweight, to being normal. Did I change anything? The way I was thinking, the way I would look at myself in the mirror. I looked at myself in the mirror with the love and the compassion that I should have been given, and I was giving it to before I met a certain person. So, how do you look at yourself? And when you look at yourself, stop always thinking physically. How are you looking at your intelligence? How are you looking at your emotional state? I hear so many people say to me, "Oh, I'm an emotional wreck." Right? You're not. You're just feeling and are safe enough to feel right now. And you're overwhelmed with all these feelings because you're not practiced in experiencing all these emotions. All you need is to gain mastery of it's okay. And why are you feeling all these emotions? And why are they coming to the surface now? And analyzing all of these things. Eventually, what happens with soulmate, and this is where Buddha talks about attachments, you have to release your attachment to people. Yes, but we've been friends for 10 years, right? And for 10 years, you've been needing to see this. Now you've seen it, you change. And maybe this person didn't change with you and they disappear. And you have to release your attachment that they don't love you, or that you're going to need them, or that they're an essential part of your life. They were when you needed them. If they're gone now, is you don't need them anymore. And this is as real for people who are still alive or leave us, for people who pass away. Their work is done and they're free to go. We don't own anyone. God doesn't even own us. He gave us free will, free realm, and says, "Go, my children, go." So how can we hold somebody back and say, "You're mine," and you can't go? We don't own them. They're in our life for a certain period of time. We don't know how long they're going to be there. Their best action would be to love them as much as we can, in a physical or a non-physical. I mean by that, you can still love them even though they passed away. The soul is still there. You don't have a physical envelope. Throw me a cushion. Someone throw me a cushion. You can't hold them anymore. It's true. However, all the frequency held in your emotional and mental and spiritual body are still very real, though not tangible, and it can still be sent to that soul because you are connected to them. Even more so now that there's no physical embodiment in the way. So if you ever miss someone because they've passed away, or because they've left and moved, or you can still be connected. Just the same way that Mother Teresa can be your soulmate because she's a great teacher. You can have this soulmate as a soul point and still send them this appreciation and this love. I've had some people say, "Well, I'd like to make peace with my father, grandfather, grandmother, but they're passed away." The physical embodiment of them, yes, has moved on, but their soul is still there. You can still send it to the soul. And this new vibration of love and forgiveness that you're sending forward in this compassion will affect their vibration at the soul level. So their next reincarnation, they're starting from a different place. You have changed these vibrations. In the shamanic tradition, we say that whatever work you are doing in the here and now is actually affecting 7 generations in the past and 7 generations in the future. Since soul may tend to reincarnate either in the same family or the same soul group in the same place, following each other, and if you're healing, that frequency of an elder 7 generation past, when they reincarnate, you will have changed it. This is how this works. Because people have a hard time understanding, but it's in the future. How do you know who you're changing? You're all link. And by sending healing to the past, you're allowing them, when they reincarnate in the future, to reincarnate at a high level in frequency. And this is an era that we have to bless, because we're coming out of secrets, right? We have the newspaper, we have TV articles, we have YouTube, we have the internet, and people are talking, breaking silence, right? We have some family secrets. We have what happens to the native in a lot of countries where they were mistreated. We're acknowledging, yes, these things happen. The chaos that was created in the name of, we acknowledge. In the same sense, the evolution of our society is all just changing with the things like Me Too, right? This was a thing on Instagram, I think, or Twitter, and women were saying enough with us being treated, differently or taken advantage of, or still being treated as property or merchandise, when we are human. We are beings with feelings, and, propriety should have taken place over what's taking place. As all these truths are coming out, we're healing generations of women. And this was only allowed to take place because some women before us have fought for us to vote, and have fought for our rights to own property, and have fought for the right for us to be considered individual as opposed to property of a husband or a father. We are growing, we are evolving, and each evolution reverberates on these women that will continue to reincarnate until they reach perfection and return to Creator. And if you think that nobody's achieved that, well, then I encourage you to read about Ascended Masters. Throughout history, in several countries all over the world, there has been beings that have reached this level of wisdom and not kept it to themselves, and have been trying to share what they were finding in order for everyone to grow with them. We had huge time in our history in the Dark Ages where we were held back in darkness. And that's why it's called the Dark Ages. Not because they had no electricity, but because spiritually they were completely grounded to a halt. The Renaissance was the ability for us to actually explore again being spiritual, experiencing joy and beauty, the painting, the architecture, having freedom to think and to create. This is all soul's work. The artists are the most blessed because they are allowed to touch God through their painting and express it in a way that they share it with the rest of us. But art in the Dark Ages was, not recognized. And every connection that you could have to your soul was cut off, sadly. But we can catch up really fast. It's not because we were grounded to a halt for like 500 years that it's going to take us 500 years to catch up to that. On the contrary, the more that we work together, the more that we join in groups and are working together amongst these groups to evolve and to grow, the more that we are able to exponentially affect the frequency, not just of us, our families, but our entire communities. Now, the soulmate, therefore, you already found it. It's all around you. So you can stop looking for the soulmate. But you can start looking for that divine spark in them and you. And what are they trying to teach you? Sometimes with ease and grace, like hopefully I'm doing now, and sometimes in a more tyrannical way. But if you're learning your lessons in a tyrannical way, which means that you end up being scared or hurt or, displeased, it's because you've been very stubborn and you've not been wanting to learn this lesson for a long time. And so you as the soul said, okay, listen, I've had 10 incarnations trying to learn this. Now, obviously, it's not getting through. Who's going to really help me get through this and learn this lesson? Right? That's the difference between a schoolmaster who yells at you and tells you, but it's a fraction. And you're like, I don't understand. And I'm technically a very intelligent person. But when it came to fraction, I couldn't understand. Why? Because I'm a visual person. And why is this number on top of that number mean anything to you? Because this is 2 and this is 4. So I don't know what you're talking about. A little line makes no difference to me. And so everybody is trying to explain this to me. I still don't understand what they're talking about. Until my brother says, let's order pizza. I'm like, oh, yeah, pizza. And so he gets the pizza. He says, now, you see this? And I'm like, uh-huh. He says, cuts the pizza in 4. He says, this represents the number of pieces, and this represents the number of pieces I'm going to give to you. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. And for the rest of that year, I literally drew little pizzas to make sure that, I really understood the concept. But that was the easy way to learn. The harder way to learn is you flunk and you have to do the whole year again. Not necessarily going to be able to understand it even more because it's the same class. So unless you get a different teacher and a more inspired one or a more imaginative one, I could have repeated that year over and over and over again and still not know what is a bloody fraction. And that's why sometimes in our reincarnation we say, I need a different way of learning this. And that's when we face harder situations in our lives. But my brother did it out of love. Now, it was nice, I got to have pizza. But so do other souls in your life. They also did it out of love. I know it's hard to understand sometimes because they actually physically hurt you or they really made life difficult for you. But from a soul's point of view, they were fulfilling their contract. They were trying to help you learn this lesson, to help you grow. So now, all of these lessons are to restore balance. They're to help you recover this frequency, this high vibrating frequency that will line you up with your full soul. Restore that connection to you. The real you. Not the shiny little part of you inside of the physical body, but the real you. The much, much grander, bigger you. If any of you have ever had a meditation and you saw an angel, in the context that I've heard people testifying of seeing angels, they always say, I don't know what their face looks like because the thing is so big. It feels like I barely made it to the hips and they're already past the roof of my house. You can't even see how grand and beautiful they are. Because they're huge. But so are we. We think that we are confined to this small little physical body, but we're not. This is just a shell. We're much bigger, much grander, and much more fabulous than we think we are. But we've forgotten all that. So as you raise your vibration, as you purify your thoughts. Purifying your thoughts means not just having no porn thoughts. It means not having any debilitating thoughts, not having any thoughts that put yourself down, not believing that you're not good enough. All of these thoughts lack purity. Yeah. Eventually, if you can connect to the soul, and this is in the higher Buddhism precepts of level 9 and 10 and up, you realize that that soul is connected to everything. And therefore, you are connected to everything. in this physical body. And if you're connected to everything, you are everything. And so you can't live any happiness if someone's experiencing sorrow. So we're going back to 1,000,000 years ago when we weren't in our dense bodies and we knew this. But now we're doing it with the density of our body, which is the great victory. All right? Now, we also come to the point where we realize we are male and female inside. Now I'm going to explain, why do we have this great longing? Why do we feel that we need to connect to something else? Well, first of all, you need to connect to your soul, because your soul is connected to God. But I talked about that already. Because we were playing in this universe without always knowing the universe's law and the universe's law of karma, we messed up. So there's some fixing up to do. Right? There's a story about a father who wanted to teach his son. And so every time his son broke something, hurt someone, said something hurtful or disrespectful, he would have to put a nail in the fence. Yeah. And as the kid's growing, I imagine he's terrible, because the whole fence gets littered with those nails. So, but now he's not putting so many nails in there, but his father witnessed him doing something good. And he says, so for every good thing that you're going to do, you can remove a nail. Encouraged by this child, now probably a young man, is making a lot of effort to prove to his father that he can be good. And he's learned the lesson. But at the end, very proud of himself, he shows his father, look, all the nails are gone. The father says, but look closely. All the holes are still there. And that's the beauty of karma. I guess some people call it, but there's something else. I like to call it the beauty, is that a good deed doesn't necessarily balance a bad deed. It's not because you did something and you just apologize that all is good. Sometimes the hurt is at a more deeper level, and a real conscious effort needs to be made. Spending time in prayer and contemplation and meditation is part of it. Is if once you've been able to take care of your own holes, you have to send energy to others, because nobody's perfect and you've hurt someone too. And we're not going to be judging here, but this person hurt me more, this person caused me more problem. You have to be above it all and say, I take responsibility for the hurt that I caused, out of ignorance, out of pain, And then sometimes you had a bad toothache, someone came to you, they did nothing to you, and you're just barking at them, and you send them scurrying away from you. No, I didn't really hurt them. And, it's obvious I had a toothache. Oh, well, maybe this person is very sensitive, and you really hurt her feelings because she usually trusts you, and she's open her heart to you, and then you send her scurrying away like this. Every little actions that we take has a possibility of doing three things: creating pain, creating joy, or healing. Healing allows them to feel in a place that they can keep their heart open. That's the true job of a soul. That's not the job of just one person. So now, the soul is really you. You are connected to everything, but there is still a uniqueness to you. How can we go about to understand this? Is you can have the entire ocean and you can still pick a drop out of the ocean. The drop is you. But you have to recognize that you are part of something bigger and grander, which is the ocean. If you really, really need just the drop, you can pull it out. But you realize that you'd rather be part of the ocean rather than being the drop. Rather than being insignificant, lost on a petal or a leaf somewhere. You have rejoined with the motherlode. You're not alone. You're completely together and connected. So the soul is an eternal being that lives outside of time and space. It cannot die. And doesn't judge you when you are incarnated in your universe. human form, because it realizes you're disconnected. And it prays and it hopes and it nudges and guides you hopefully to this reconnection. So while you're here, perhaps going from a 5th or 6th level of consciousness, you might reach 7 or 8 and grow exponentially without having to go back to level 1 all over again. When does this happen? For a lot of people who have near-death experience, they die, either it's a long tunnel, they go into the light, they feel lifting above their body, depending on which religious background they are in from, but they get told, you're not done, please go back. And they come back and they know this is a second chance. They don't usually smear it away. There'll usually be drastic change in their behavior, or an increase of their faith, or something will change. This change, it is about healing your past consciousness level and allowing you to raise to a new one because you have an awareness of something different. And the role is not to be quiet about it. It's not to hide and cover behind a screen or in the shadows. It's to actually bring awareness to others. This actually happened to me. Now, of course, the first people who shared this ended up in mental asylum, and then the next batch of people who shared this were called fools and discredited. And now we live in a time where people openly talk about meeting angels, openly talk about viewing the other side without fear of reprisal. All this should encourage you to understand that it's not special people who can do that. Everybody can do that. I was not bestowed any specific gifts that made me more special. I'm not the half-child of a god or anything like that. I just had experience that allowed me to see beyond this physical world. And that's why I'm unshakable in my belief about what I'm sharing. So now, when you get to the twin soul is a particular soul mate that you decide to evolve with for a time. If you were attracted to each other, it means that you have the same frequency. If you have the same frequency, it means that you have the same strength and the same weaknesses. Is that going to help you move around a lot? Maybe, maybe not. Because they're not as opposite to soulmates, where you can pick someone who's strong in something that you're not. When you become a twin, which would be an identical soul presents itself to you, you have a chance not to, not so much to be better at something and they're not, but a chance to evolve together in those weaknesses through your strength. It's a collaboration, a close-knit collaboration. And again, not necessarily a sexual one. You may choose to be with a twin soul and have nothing to do with a sexual relationship. You have to start excluding all this soul stuff from the sex stuff. The sex stuff is for the physical body. It has nothing to do with the soul. If you've been looking for a soulmate, you look everywhere around you, those are your soulmates. If you're looking for a twin soul, then you have to look at the person who literally seems to be a copy of you. And be honestly observing everything you like and don't like and all their strengths and their weaknesses, and then say, that's me. And if you can both admit to that, then you can both work together and grow together. And be allowed in that strengthening of your weaknesses and you're learning your lesson to voluntarily choose the spiritual evolution. And you may, at one point or another, have a sexual relationship. But it's not your first thing. It's not your first go-to. It's far, far after aligning the chakras energy, aligning the vibration of the mental, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. Identifying what you can do for each other and how together you're going to grow. Now, in the evolution of that, if you succeed with that, if you succeed in growing the frequency of both souls together, you might be offered the opportunity to be a flame, twin flame. Now, this twin flame is this time growing from a spiritual place to unifying with the actual Christ consciousness, which is the embodiment of divine love, to a growth that connects you with that part. So you become a bright flame, you become reverberance of this energy, and you're giving it away. So you don't, as you can see, you can't be starting having sex with everybody. That's not how you give it. You give it from the open heart of who you are, and you distribute the love all around you. But instead of doing it alone, you're doing it with a partner, which might lend you strength in times where things are hard. People who volunteer after disaster will tell you what that's like. They are there, they are working, they're uncovering horrible things, they're trying to be compassionate and loving, but it's draining. And to have a twin soul with you, then you comfort each other at the end of the day. And then you go back the next day and you continue sharing and giving to the world. There's a beautiful books that I've managed to get my hands on when I was in Shasta, California, that explain just that, how a couple came together and are spreading light around the world, and they're having special ceremonies near special parks or big trees and boosting this love energy. But they're doing it together, perfectly aligned. Which means there's no more you do this or you're like that, and no more finger pointing, no more. Something needs to be done, and it is done, and it doesn't matter who's done it, it's done. In order to free the time up for us to be doing this together. A good example of that is me and my business partner, right? So on days like today, when I'm trying to get everything organized, get around the new rules of YouTube to still have a live streaming, preparing for everything that I need to prepare for, she made dinner. She served me dinner, and she cleaned up after me. Is she ever going to say, I always clean up on Tuesdays and you never do it? No, because Tuesday is a busy time for me, right? There's a lot of other concerns that I need to do. But would I be able to do what I'm doing if I didn't have her to help? No. No, I would not. Because I need what she has to offer for me, which is complete acceptance, complete support, and knowing what I need. If I was alone, I wouldn't have eaten dinner. Would that be good or healthy for me? No. We don't have a laundry rule in this house. The laundry machine is full, the laundry machine is started. It doesn't matter who pushed the button, and it doesn't matter who's going to fold the laundry. It's just something that needs to be done, and as we walk in front of the machine, we just get it done. Yeah. And but the ultimate goal is not to say at the end of the week, well, I did the laundry and I've made dinner, and yes, and I folded the laundry, so yes, take me out. The goal at the end of the week is like, wow, I have managed to do the podcast, I've managed to be prepared for my class tomorrow, and I'm feeling like I have some free time. What do you need? To be there supporting instead of trying to say, well, this is owed to me now because I've done all these things. And is it balanced every week? Probably not. Because she can tell you, when I got a book to have to go out by a certain date, forget the laundry and forget food and forget anything else. It has to be, I have the due date, it has to be out. And nothing, everything else takes precedent. This takes precedent over everything else. The beauty of evolving at this level with someone, especially if you can withdraw the actual sexual tension and know that you can give all the love you have in your heart, there'll be no requests made, there would be no exigence made, and you're loved at all time, it allows your soul to grow and soar. Now, am I saying that this can't happen with a husband or a wife? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be that. Which for young people, they find it very confusing now because they're very free to express their sexuality. So they can have homosexual relationship or same-sex relationship or sexual with different partners, and they love this freedom. But none of it has to do with your soul work. So I'm not being a prude when I encourage you to step back from the sexual part and go more into the discovery of the soul. But they're not linked. Which brings me to the tantric relationship, because I've had some people ask me about this because they've been set horribly wrong path and been taken advantage of by gurus or people claiming that they would have enlightenment through sexual relationship. The original of Tantra was that in Atlantis, it was decided, and everything was decided as a community, that perhaps if we were more connected, okay, so let me go back. We are very connected, our body gets denser, we get less connected. Yeah, we got that? And then they decided, well, perhaps we're still in androgynous body, we still can get pregnant on our own. Okay, so we're bringing a soul in, but it's all on our own, and we're having to do all the work on our own. And I said, well, perhaps if we were to separate the male energy or the male physical organ portion required to create a new body from the female, then we would be creating more close relationships. Right? They're all excited over this because they're like, ooh, because you're going to need a male and a female to get together to have a baby instead of doing it all on your own. It should increase the connection. It should increase our growth. And this is the story of Adam and Eve, which, by the way, I just know the name of Adam and Eve because I was brought up that way, but it's in several cultures around the world. They have different names, but it really doesn't matter. The point is, came a male and a female. Often, the female was pulled out of the male's body. In the Bible, it says they took the rib of Adam and created an entire female out of it. In the Atlantis lore, what they did is they literally were able to separate an entire whole body. And the last piece joining them was the rib. And so when the rib detached, you had the female and you had the male. Thank God, they didn't separate the soul. The only physical apparatus was separated, but the soul still remained androgynous. Well, what happened is that now this whole body had a piece missing. It had to connect to something. It had to unify, and they had to work together for that. Now we're getting closer to that's identifying your perhaps sexual need for a partner. You have this longing for the part of you that is missing. What you don't understand is that you don't have so much the longing for a person, but more for the androgynous part of you that was taken away from you. You don't feel complete because your soul is androgynous, but it doesn't have this physical expression of it. It's missing parts. And now there's some children being born as androgynous, both with female and male parts. And a lot of the people are, at first they were trying to choose. And I'm like, why are you choosing anything? Why are you doing that? Let them grow. Let them be both. What's wrong with being both? It's unusual. It's freaky. Yes, but eventually we will all be born this way again. As we're reunifying our energies, purifying our frequencies, our physical body is going to be the expression of our soul, which is androgynous. So now, Tantra was developed at the time for these two souls longing for the part of them that wasn't part of them anymore. These Tantra exercises were actually an exercise in connecting through the eyes, connecting energetically through the chakras, connecting from soul to soul. They weren't allowed to touch. There was no touching. It was about soul connection. So anybody who's telling you that Tantra is sex has been grossly misinformed. Tantra is actually the connection of two souls. And the last thing they wanted you to do was physically connect, because that was like almost cheating. It was the opposite of touching. It was knowing that inside of there was something that you could touch and link to. But they created that longing by making us really miss this yin or yang part of us. Am I clear? Is that making a lot of sense? Everybody here is nodding yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, so telepathic communication, spiritually connecting, linking of the chakras. I'm doing good. I don't need my notes. The cost of this longing, however, didn't work so well. Some people didn't have that patience. Some people didn't have the ability, they thought, because it takes a while to do that. And so what it created is basically the end of the Lemurian civilization. In effect, it became just Atlantean. And this realization of separation, they now knew they were separated. But they knew they were separated from the physical part of them, but they completely forgot that this was all an exercise to reunite with linking with your spirit and your soul. And instead of that, they let fear completely disconnect them from there, and now wanting this back. And what was done was not undone. Therefore, came out of this experience fear of isolation, fear of loneliness, and fear of separation. And all this fear did was obstruct your ability to recognize the divinity in the other person, because now you're like, no, you're mine. You have to stay here. You have to be with me. I need this. You can't go. And so we're completely obstructed our view of their soul, their free will. They can come and go as they please. And then it's in the freedom of them choosing to come to you that the real beauty exists. And so this caused a radical confusion, and was so terrible that's when the ego developed. That is actually the birth of the ego, is that immense fear of separation and loneliness and isolation. And so our soul said, okay, well, maybe if I give you a partner, then until you connect with me, you'll know there's someone there with you, accompanying you to this and protecting you from all these fearful things. All those feelings to be of oneself and selfish ego. But what the ego did is that one of the ways that we protect ourselves sometimes, and everybody's probably done it at one time or another, I'm better than you. You can't say this to me because I'm better than you. I'm not going to listen because I do this better than you. Who does he think he is? Or who does she think she is? How dare you? Oh, no. It's not happening. Go away. I'm not listening. That's all ego behavior. Well, all of these behaviors are really about protecting what's very sensitive inside of you. So if you want a better picture of it, because obviously I'm a very visual person, you have the higher self, the soul, the grand thing there that is like the mother lobe, and only a parcel or a spark of it is hidden in your heart. So if it's a parcel or a smaller piece of it, you could consider that the inner child. And so the ego is like a warrior or the Amazon guarding the inner child. But in doing so, has isolated the child inside of a very small, contrite space of darkness, saying, "Don't worry, I got it." They're inside a cave in the dark. And the only way to circumvent this is not to be engaging in ego activity, saying we are the superior race, we are better than you. And we've seen this over and over throughout history. We always found a way to be better than somebody else. That boosted our strength and our belief that we were good because we were better than that. And even in our dominion over plants and animals, not just over humans. We're the only species on this planet that decided to control every single thing on this planet. Do the wolves care what the lions are doing in Africa? Nope. You know, does the polar bear worry about what's happening in the Amazon? No. He's not trying to control everything. He's not trying to invade everything. This is my space. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I will evolve here and be very happy. So we need to tell our ego that we are all have children inside of us, and if we all act like children with love and compassion and stop having to be tougher and better and everything else that we're trying to be and just be ourselves, we will find there's a room for us too, everywhere. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the flame. This flame growth that comes from the twin soul, the flame soul or the eternal flame of, they're all about this growth in consciousness that you're trying to achieve, to work in a cosmic level as opposed to a third dimensional level. And when you're joining with this universal love, remember, you're going back to soul. There's no physical. And you grow the frequencies that are binding the universe together in order for this universe to be restored to an equilibrium of peace. Once you have transmutated and grown, you will be allowed in the presence of God again. And you will be given mission to teach. And you will teach appropriating to what you've learned. What can I do to offer to help you guys with that? If you want to know more about how this all works and how can you fix things or how can you heal things, we're having the workshop on Akashic Records. We're having meditation here that are guided, some of them, and some of them are more free on just vibrational basis. You can get a soul reading to restore your priorities on how to rebalance yourself and your energies to be aligned with your soul's purpose. We know that the purpose is that you want to be able to clear your karma, raise your frequency. But in this life, what lesson did you come here to learn? What was important that you master in this life? To make sense of all these events in your life and allowing them to be all connected. If you're interested in the very deep workshop work, we're doing that next year in Shasta. So there's different opportunities and different ways to go about connecting to the soul, understanding who you are and how to identify perhaps this twin soul that you can exponentially grow in. You can do it on a one-to-one basis with a group. You can go as deep or as light as you are ready to go. Always respecting free will. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. This is like the smoothest talk ever. So I thank you for the listeners. We made it 85 minutes. I usually leave a little bit of room for questions, but no one's got questions, so we're gonna end this now. There we go. So thank you for listening. Our next video will be on.
Isn't it indigo?
There might be the indigo crystal, rainbow children,
Or the 12 laws.
or the 12 laws of the universe. But we have more topics coming, and now we figured out how to still do live videos until I have 1,000 followers. So we welcome you to watch, like, and subscribe to get us to be able to stream from mobile devices outside of our home. Thank you.